Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. About 5 or maybe 6 topics for this video. The first one, I think we found out what would be Russia's nuclear target. That is, the Russians, more specifically, Mr. Medvedev, tells us what will be the first target of their nuclear strike. I think it's unfortunate. But hey, I'm not in command and I don't have all the cards in order to say which one should be or shouldn't be, or if any, and so on. So those are 2 articles. Another article, another topic is the, if you remember, the Russian leadership or Vladimir Putin said, well, you know what? If you guys, which is United States of America or whomever, allows Kiev regime or guys in Kiev, allows them to strike targets deep inside in Russia with long-range missiles, that means war with NATO, because without the support of the American satellites and intelligence and command, those targets cannot be hit with the weapons provided. Well, that extends not only to the United States of America, it seems like it extends to the great people of Britain, because their leaders cannot, according to Russia Today, cannot fire those missiles without the Americans' intelligence. That means the Storm Shadow missiles that would be fired by the Ukrainians, click, you know what I mean, deep inside Russia. How deep they go, 200 and some miles or something, or if they go that far, they cannot go that far without the Americans directing and coordinating the strikes. Let's read the article. Next topic, the weasels in the great country of Romania. They have something native. They know how to, play the big guys. And some people say, well, you turn around, you this. All countries at one point, someone else, another country. So when they say, well, in the Second World War, Romania did this to Germany, well, Germany did it before that in the Ribbentrop-Molotov pact with Stalin. Germany dropped, hey, we have no claims if you guys take Bessarabia and Bukovina. So they stabbed them first, just to clear that little air and get an argument for the Romanians who still go in the defensive. So what's going on here? The Romanians wait, as I said, and any other country, any small country, is playing the wars between the big guys. When the big guys, fight, you get opportunities. The same right now. You have the war in Ukraine, you have the Americans involved over there, then you find out Africa scrambles, boom, boom, we're going to do something with China and Russia. East Asia, the same thing. South America, the same thing. So they see opportunities. Why? Because when these guys are too busy here, they miss, and then they form all kind of allegiance or vassality and so on. So Romania is going to get F-35s. Can you believe that? For me personally, it's hard to believe. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I'm surprised 90% that Romania will receive F-35s. What? Because if you are given F-35 by the United States of America, that means you are totally in a different state of vassality. Greece has F-35s, if I remember correctly, but Turkey does not have F-35s. So, that gives you a little bit of who's who, what's what. I think the Poles have F-35s or will receive their F-35s. I think they already have it. Israel, I think, has F-35s, but with Israel, we're not talking vassality. We talk vassality. Got that hint? All right, so I'm going to read this one. I'm surprised, and that is because I will explain when we get to the topic. Next one. The German government. I think that Germany as a country is not an independent country, sovereign country. I think it's under the occupation of the United States of America. Military, politically, culturally, I think it is under. That's my assessment. Unfortunately, you have troops of someone else's country on your territory and you don't have on their territory. That tells you that it's unidirectional. So the Germans provoke the Chinese. Do you think the Germans provoke the Chinese because they personally have an interest with Volkswagen against the Chinese EV companies? I don't think so. I think it's a button that the master, Al Capone, the slave master Al Capone, pushed, and the Germans said, yeah, we're going to do it. So what are they doing? They are provoking China. Where? Not, next to Hamburg. by the sea or something. No. It's in South China Sea, or they go in the Strait of Taiwan. Can you imagine that? And then don't forget, never forget who cast the first rock, because in the future, near future, they will twist it and going to say the Chinese are threatening the Germans. Remember who was the initiator, who was the person who provoked, and it was Germany. I will show. And when Germany will be slapped, because it's just a token in the little hand of the Al Capone's interest. When Germany will be slapped, the mass media will cry, their pussies will cry and say, look what the Chinese are doing to us. And you forgot that these guys actually sent warships to China. Well, I'm going to show you. It's unfreaking believable. It happened over and over again. Between friends or acquaintances, that doesn't happen. It happens only between enemies, and I'm going to explain. Well, Ukraine ready for ceasefire. And then we have the Ukrainians say, no, an advisor, according to Bild, German tabloid. So these are the topics. Tirpitz. Remember that warship in the Second World War, Tirpitz? Okay, so these are the topics of this video. So let's start with the first one with Medvedev. Holy moly macaroni. Here we go again with the crazy one, right? I don't think so. Right here, the Hill says, and let me put my goggles on. Oh, well, that's the right article. Russia says a response won't be pretty if Ukraine starts long-range strikes. So I thought they're at war with NATO, not necessarily Ukraine. But maybe that's the first target. Let's see. I have another article that's going to probably give us more conclusive, detailed understanding of what exactly Mr. Medvedev says. Some of Russia's top officials issues threats. You see, these guys start with year zero is when the Russians use threats to the West and said the response to Kiev won't be pretty if Ukraine gets permission to begin long-range strikes with Western supplied weapons. So this is where they start the whole thing. Where it should start? It should start in 1991. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm glad that you are here with me. Because after the understanding between the Soviets and the good old West, the free countries that dropped half of Europe to the criminal Soviets, after this understanding between the bully boys over there, obviously they are, what's going on here? The Americans remained the sole leader of this planet. And that would have had the opportunity to show that they are that house or city on the hill, you know, the great and fantastic, the extraordinary Americans that they are. So that's why it's 1991. That was the big opportunity. They blew it. Why? The wrong people in charge of this great nation. So let's go back to the article. And I'm quoting, the decision has been made. I said this before. The carte blanche, the white page or whatever card, and all indulgences have been given to Kiev. So we are ready for everything. I told you, the decision for this war, decisions to give them everything they gave to the Ukrainians have been made years ago. They just prepare you, I, and the baboons together with everybody else. They prepare us to accept their garbage slowly. That's it. And he's right. I think he's right. So Sergei Ryabkov said, according to Russian state-owned news agency, and we will react in a way that will not be pretty, he added. Why do they show us here? It says Russia will respond. Deputy chair of the Russian Council, Dmitry Medvedev, said Ukraine, the incursion in Kursk region, which Ukraine's President Zelensky, because Ukraine's, that's great, because he's the president of Ukraine, legitimate, he's in charge to a certain extent, said slowed Moscow's military advance. On a different front, already justified the use of either nuclear or deadly non-nuclear weapons. And I'm quoting, and that would be it, a giant gray melted spot instead of the mother Russia of Russian cities. He wrote on Telegram, the messaging service. So this is the article that I think is going to give us the straight explanation Moscow says Kiev could become, and I'm quoting, giant melted spot if long-range weapons use. And again, we have Medvedev here. So what do you think the Russians will use as to achieve this supposedly giant melted spot? Well, look at Hiroshima after the bombardment and maybe you see some hints. But the problem is in 1945, the Japanese had mostly wooden things, so I don't see melted things too many. But you can look at the dome in where supposedly right under the atomic bomb where it was where it was dropped, because the bomb was not dropped to hit the ground. It was, I think, about 600 feet, if I remember, above the ground. So it's when it was its explosion, it pushed the air all around, and the heat it would cover more. So that's why underneath it's a little bit of an empty spot. That's why you see the dome, if I remember correctly from my long time readings. So nevertheless, let's go back to these guys. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev on Sunday said Kiev could be reduced to a giant melted spot if Western nationals allow Ukraine to use long-range weapons to attack Russia. Medvedev, who currently serves as the deputy chair of the Russian Security Council, made the comments in a lengthy post on Telegram social media channel. All right, so we got that one. So what do you think? I think this is misguided. That's my direct, because if you drop it over Kiev, you're going to kill a really, really, really innocent, some of them misguided, and some criminals. Some criminals, many misguided, and many innocent. That's how I see it. Because the Ukrainians, what are they going to do? If you say stop the war, you get arrested, and then they say you're a collaborator, or you support the Russian unprovoked invasion. Some people don't know that, these guys are with those guys together, and those guys are doing what these guys are telling them. So they're just misguided, and they think they fight against the Russian invasion, the Ruskies, blah, 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 blah. And they say nationalism and our patriotism and so on. Those are the misguided ones, I think. And obviously have the criminals who know what's going on, but they are using the rest of these guys to fight the Russians. And actually they fight their own national interest, because they're going to be decimated. So I think hitting Kiev is not a good thing. I would hit much further than Kiev. I would hit somewhere close to, I don't know, and I'm not suggesting that it should be done, but if I would be a general over there, I would suggest going to the source, and the source is not Kiev whatsoever. And I'm not talking about civilian targets. I'm talking about military targets of the real people and, how should I put them, institutions that are behind all this thing. And that you can find them in London, you can find them somewhere else, and it would be, London would be a good start, somewhere in the water, somewhere in, in a field, even in Ukraine. I wouldn't hit Kiev, and these guys know it, these guys cannot be so crazy, but maybe they are. I would hit either a military location where I know that these guys have the military, and I would say, well, it was a military target at least, part of the war. We use a different kind of tactical nuclear weapon, and instead of being war criminals as the other guys with the Hiroshima and Nagasaki to civilian cities, and they would have gone on and on. That is genocide. They would have eliminated Japan. If Japan did not surrender on September 2nd, 1945, the Americans said we would destroy another city, and then if not another city, until you're no more. That was to save lives and end the war. Well, if you use the same argument, only the same argument, then let's think about the Russians. Russians could end the war right there and save their boys' lives. So you see, that's kind of garbage. And there's details over there, of course. So I think that's what could do it on a military target, or maybe as an example, but example would not be hard enough if you just destroy a field, an empty field somewhere in Ukraine. Maybe a few casualties, as they are, but hit a field and say next one is going to be on this one. But I think the Russians gave already enough back. And I think a military target, they can justify it morally. Like, hey, at least we hit a military target with a weapon a little bit bigger than this and that. I'm not suggesting the Tsar bomb should be dropped right there, but something like that. I'm not promoting that. but I don't think it's going to be Kiev, even though he identified Kiev as a back off. All right, what's next? What is the Russians say that actually the Ukraine, if the Ukrainians use the British missiles effectively without US data, don't work. Did you like my American English? Whatever that was. Russia Today. Ukraine could not use British missiles effectively without US data. I know that the Brits and everybody else depend, according to the Russians, on the American military capabilities so much. I didn't know that Brits with their Storm Shadows, they cannot be directed over the Russian territory without the Americans. So how in the hell the Brits want to fight the Russians then? So that means the Russians can punch them and these guys can only scratch as far as here. It doesn't mean that the Russians are telling the truth. That's, let's put it this way. Storm Shadow missiles will not hit their targets if London unilaterally allows Kiev to strike deep in Russia, sources have said. So that means let them do it. So let's say London tomorrow says, oh, we're going to allow the Ukrainians use our Storm Shadows. The Russians will say, again, backing off. We're going to say, well, it's okay. Let them do it because they can't hit effectively. Or it's all inclusive. If they use it, it's going to be the Americans involved. I don't know yet which direction the Russians are taking. Like direction, oh, let them use them because it's not, they're not effective. They're not going to hit anything. I don't think so. But anyway, is that a way to, I'm not going to, this is the red line. We'll find out, but let's see what this article has to say. Ukraine will not be able to effectively use British supply Storm Shadow missiles for long-range attacks on Russia without targeting data provided by US, the Times has reported. Oh, so it was the Times, not the Russia Today, but maybe the Times tried to get the idea that, oh, let them use them, the missiles, because they're not going to be able to do anyway. So when that means, why do it? So if they cannot hit effectively, and the Americans said no, why bother to use Storm Shadow missiles? That is, if it's ineffective, don't use it. You're just going to use a lot of money made by printing machines and banks, and you're going to pay for it, like British subjects. Well, you're a subject, that's what you are. And we are in a certain way, but here things are a little bit more refined. We're called all citizens, and we're all like this, and we're all like that. It's so much euphemistic argument here that you feel like throwing up. We're, I think, economic slaves, 100%. Modern economic slaves. And some of us are called subjects, the other ones are called whatever you want to, beautiful people. We're still what we are in essence. All right, so I think these guys say, well, let them use Starmer, let them use the weapons because they are ineffective. And why have them use them if they're ineffective? Or I'm going to say, hey, we wait for the Americans. They try to pass it on the Americans. If the Americans decide that it's on you because we can't use those. So we are together. I think that's what we are. They are. The Brits, I'm talking about the governments, and the US, these are the guys. The rest are just like a locomotive, which is of America's interest, the guys who own us. And then you have the second one, the one that carries the coal. That's, let's say, Great Britain with intelligence services and the local office of distribution. And then the rest are the carriages. They're coming over because they're attached, click, 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 hitched to the freaking locomotive, like Romania, Germany, France, locomotives. That's what they are. All right, let's go here and see what these guys are saying. In an article on Saturday, the paper cited 5 former UK defense secretaries and ex-Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who argued that London should unilaterally allow Kiev to use its munitions to target internationally recognized Russian territory instead of waiting for approval from Washington. And I'm quoting, "This is no conceivable case for delay, Johnson." You see, these guys, just look in Great Britain. Who is yelling more to destroy Russia? He has a chance to be appointed by the forces at a position in the government to be your boss to a certain extent. Whoever says, no, we should stop. No, maybe we should think about it. Maybe we should talk to the Russians. His career is blocked, put to the side, and bye-bye. So it's a fight between, no, we're going to hit this. No, we're going to provide this. No, we're going to hit that. Look at these guys over there. Look at them. It's just a fight among these guys, among themselves, to be more, I don't know, crazy, because they know who pays them. and it's not the government. Ukraine has been pushing for some permission for a month. Okay, the Times noted that Britain could fire Storm Shadows without US approval or assistance, but they might be intercepted by Russian air defenses or be diverted off course. Then don't send them or take a chance. A UK defense source told the outlet that Storm Shadows, which were jointly developed by UK and France, probably would not survive in the contested, electronically jammed environment that the Russians have. And I'm quoting, Russian electronic warfare has rendered GPS useless. They jam it. So it has to use another type of data set instead, which is American owned. Now we know why these guys say no. All right, so it says here, the authorization of such attacks will mean that NATO countries, the US and the European countries are fighting against Russia. Putin said, Russia will make the appropriate decisions based on the threats facing us. All right, that's one of them, unfortunately. All right, so let's see what's next. Oh, the weasels are here, or is it one of them? These guys, man, these guys are smart, but survivors, that's what it is. US clears F-35 sale to Romania, bolstering NATO's eastern flank, September 13th, 2024. The US State Department on Friday announced that it approved the sale of 32, wow, new or used? I mean pre-owned. F-35A Joint Strike Fighters to Romania in a deal worth roughly 7.2 billion. So Romanians, you're going to be safe with 32 airplanes, and you're going to have a great economy. Romania's deals for the Lockheed Martin made F-35s will also include F-135 engines made by the Pratt Whitney, and we have to memorize these guys too. For each jet and spare engines. The sale would provide Romania, a NATO member, its first 2 squadrons of F-35s, and the country wants to later buy 16 more jets to make up a 3rd squadron. If the deal is finalized, it could make Romania the 3rd Eastern European country to fly F-35s, in addition to Poland, as I said, and Czech Republic. Good? Good. It says Romania said on September 2023 that it expected to receive its first F-35s in 20... What? By that time, these guys will be grandfathers. Oh my God, dinosaurs. Romania's planned purchases could make it NATO's first F-35 operator on the eastern flank. All right, the Romanians, if you look at Romania's history, they maneuvered. Like, for instance, the Romanian, let's say, independence. The first the war of independence was in 1877. That was when the Russian Empire, the Tsarist Russia, together with the Ottoman and the Turks, Ottoman Empire, they had a little problem. They have been having problems who takes whose lands from someone else. So they were overlapping somewhere. And the Turks said, I'm going to use Turks and Russians. The Turks said, this is ours. These guys said, no, it's ours. So as Russia grew, if you remember, right, in the 19th century, and expansion and so on, Tsarina, Katerina, and Peter and so on, Peter the Great and so on, they expanded greatly. And then what they do? They went over, pushed everybody else and conquered. That's how an empire was made, right? Like, for instance, I don't know, the United States of America went and settled and said, hey, guys, what are you doing here? Bow and arrow, what the fuck is that? We've had that, what, 13,000 years? 13,000 years ago we used that. Now we use other things. Let me show you here. This, and in the meantime, take a bottle of whiskey as well. Anyway, so you befriend your... Anyway, this is it. So the Romanians won their one of the independence then. It was only 2, Moldova and the old kingdom, is in Wallachia. So they joined the Russians against the Turks, and eventually with that they got the recognition. Why? Because France was busy somewhere else, and France agreed, and they had their problems, if you remember, in those times. And that's how Romania was kind of recognized, the War of Independence, and so on. And that was one example. The other one was with Transylvania. After the First World War, after the Second World War, it was about Transylvania and lands, Quadrilater and other territories from Bulgaria. So they moved left and right. The same right now. Why do you think Romania is allowed to be so big? It's not because Romania is nice and... No. It's because if you make little ones, you need more people to bribe. Like this, you need one, and it's under your control, and you transport your troops asking one guy or telling one guy, we're going to transport the troops through this territory. And if that territory is like this, instead of being big, you have to ask or tell all these baboons to allow your troops to go over there. You know, it's easier. And it seems like the Romanians, like for instance with what's his name, Nikita Khrushchev, when the Soviets took their troops, took their occupation out of Romania, the same thing. The guy said, Khrushchev said, okay, we're going to take our troops out. You know what? Because you're surrounded by our troops anyway. Everybody around us, except, by the time it was, I think, to a certain extent, Yugoslavia, but everybody else, we are here. So you are in our claw. The same here. Let the Romanians have F-35s because they're in our grip anyway. What are they going to do? Give it to the Russians? We control the Romanians. So it's easier when you have them under control. The same, I think it was with Khrushchev's mentality when he met, what's his name, Gheorghe Gheorghiu-Dej, then the leader, the communist leader of Romania, when they had a conversation. Supposedly it happened, at a hunting, drinking fest and so on. And they said, I'm going to take your stuff out. And I think that's exactly how it was. It was just between two guys who were a little bit drunk, and then the Soviet leader, Khrushchev, said, okay, we're going to take our troops out. Why? You're close to us anyway, and where are you going to go? To Bulgaria? To Hungary? To where? We got you anyway. Yugoslavia? Go to Yugoslavia. We take over your land. So, good for the Romanians. Now go and work, Romanians, to pay for that. Work what? Work what? Oh my God. The money that the European Union give you to buy the products produced somewhere else, brought into the European Union, it's so... All right, so let's see what the Germans are doing. Remember, the Germans cast the first rock. It was not the Chinese. Here, Business Insider. German warships ignored China's complaints, plural, and sailed through the Taiwan Strait for the first time in over 2 decades. Why is that? Remember, the Taiwan Strait is not by Germany, it's not by Hamburg, okay? It's not by Kiel or whatever. It's Trelleborg or whatever it's over there. It's not there. It is very far away from their territory. You see it here? So this is where Deutschland is, in this area right here. And they sailed through here and went around here. And they went around here. And they went around here. And they ended up, I'm going to show you this one. They ended up, where are you, baby doll? Somewhere here. See? Right over there. This somewhere over there. That's where they ended up. So it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Remember, when you're going to hear the Chinese smacking the Germans, unfortunately, it was not the Germans who initiated. It was the military, the German military. Now, you can say, well, they deserve. Why would they deserve it? Now, if you are, let's say, my customer, not my customer, my business partner, or I'm doing business with you. That's what it is. I'm doing business with you. And I send my military to you. I don't think you're, and you don't send yours to me around my area. That means I'm initiating something, a provocation. You don't do this to a friend. You don't do this to an acquaintance. You don't do this to a business partner. You do this with a person that you really militarily, you provoke. You didn't send over there, I don't know, a Jean Cousteau or something to do some research in the Taiwan Strait. You send 2 military vessels right next to them in a place where you know it's a subject that you should not touch. Now, if you have a person, and you know that person, let's say, divorced or has a problem in the family, you're not going to talk about that all the time and say, hey, you're stupid doing that, you failed there. Unless you want to aggravate something, you want to push on something. So even if you are, how should I put it, acquaintance, not even acquaintance, you don't say things because that would cause a conflict. Here, these guys create a conflict. The Chinese did not send their flotilla, as I said, in the Atlantic next to these guys, or how you want to call it, or maybe in the Mediterranean Sea. They did not. These guys did it first. So remember this one. Next one. Let's see what the reaction is. Germany sells 2 warships through Taiwan Strait for the first time in 2 decades. And the third one right here. Again, this is for two decades to the Business Insider, and this is Associated Press. And we're going to go to the reaction from Russia Today. Obviously, German warships, a security risk, Chinese military. So if that guy that you say he's not your enemy says, hey, this is a subject that is very sensitive to me, and you're a pig for mentioning it, but it's okay, I'm going to mention your garbage with your mistress. What are you going to do then? Oh, Emil is not being, nice. Well, I wasn't the one who did it that first. You did it, and I'm not going to say, oh, the other chick, here it is, take a shit on it. No, I'm going to punch you as hard, and I'm going to knock you out. And besides, Germany, you're under occupation. Sei ruhig. Take it easy. Go. Unbelievable, man. The warning comes after two of the EU's countries' ships passed through the Taiwan Strait for the first time in 22 years. Why was this necessary? The passage of Pop increased the security risk in the region, the Chinese military has said, and Berlin of start staging a provocation and violation of one China policy. What should we do? Let's say the Chinese would have just used some missiles to attack those. Who do you think would be the victim here? The Germans and you and I. Why? Because you see, those guys want to attack us and take everything we got. That would be from here straight there. But hey, the same thing, the Russian war in Ukraine, or the military operation, special military operation, was unprovoked. Unprovoked. Go back to history. You're going to find 2014, you're going to go to 1994, you're going to go to 1991. You have many points where you can start the conversation and accumulate all information pertinent to the case. And let's see now, Ukraine is ready for ceasefire. Is it? Well, we'll see. Russia Today, 15th of September. Ukraine ready for ceasefire in certain areas, Bild claims. How in the hell in the certain areas? How could that be possible? Well, remember when Blinken and Mr. Lamar, because he's French, the foreign minister, the British foreign minister, visited Kiev a few days ago. What did they say? Something big is going to happen. These guys came and told these guys, give them some orders. Probably, we can't do that. We will do this. You will say that. This is what's going to be. Maybe this could be a consequence of these guys telling them, hey, you know what? I think we take our toys, or some of our toys, and we go back home and you speak with whomever. Maybe we should just a little bit of a ceasefire in certain areas. But hey, the Ukrainians, at least one guy, an advisor, says no, that's not true. The media outlet claims it is part of a strategy that Vladimir Zelensky will present to the US. Now, Ukraine could be ready to freeze hostilities with Russia on certain parts of the front line. Okay, like the Russians, oh my God. The German tabloid newspaper Bild has reported, citing what it claims to be Vladimir Zelensky's revised strategy. The Ukrainian leader's plan for the conflict also reportedly hinges on Western backers allowing Kiev to use long-range missiles they have provided to hit targets deep inside Russia. And I'm quoting, back in July, Russian President Vladimir Putin made it clear that Moscow was not interested in a ceasefire or some kind of pause that the Kiev regime could use to recover losses, regroup, and rearm. And I'm quoting, Russia is in favor of a complete and final end of the conflict. No halfways and so on. According to the German media outlet, the main points include a demand to be allowed to deploy Western-range weapons deep inside Russia, as well as Ukraine's readiness to accept local ceasefires, plural, along certain positions of the front, and thus a provisional freezing of the situation. Yet, that's not going to happen. And then we have a guy from Zelensky's side, Ukrainska Pravda, again, September 15th, Sunday. Zelensky's advisor, not Zelensky, an advisor, denies media reports about Ukraine's victory plan involving ceasefire with Russia. Why is an advisor? It's not because this guy would not come out and deny it. It's because when they will say, hey, that's a lie, Mr. Advisor, the advisor will be kicked in the balls, not this guy in his pussy. Okay, he doesn't have balls. The German newspaper Pop reported zup. So, Dmitro Papa, communication advisor, in a comment to Ukraine said, let's say, what do you say? Story Pop, Chip Kup. Bild claims that the strategy includes both of the men to allow, so there's the same thing here. In a comment to Ukrainska Pravda, Zelensky advisor emphasized that the report was false and that the German newspaper could not have seen the document. Also, there is the document and say it's false. Okay, quote from Litvian. Bild has spread a fake. Okay, close his account if you can. No, you can't. Why? Because it spreads your propaganda as well. Bild has not seen the victory plan. How do you know that? Because there's none. And over the few people currently involved in the preparation of the victory plan, none of them have spoken to Bild. How do you know? That's imbecilic, right? If you would say there's no such a thing as the document yet or anything like that, yeah, nobody, no, again, he knows nobody will give the Russians Minsk III or any other format. Ukraine opposes and freezes of the war, and this stance is communicated by Ukrainian authorities at all levels because they inform us all the time. It is essential for us that the United States supports Ukraine's victory plan, not surrender or freezing the military action. Okay, so that gets me to this one. All right, Moscow says Kiev could become giant melting spot if long-range missiles used. That's it, my friends. That's it. We'll find out. We'll find out. I'm going to make after this a video where I'm going to show you why maybe, or at least one of the reasons why I think the guys in charge of us in the West, right, the guys in charge of us don't really care if the Russians use nuclear weapons wherever. That's why they're so dismissive of the real Russian threats. Like, what we're going to use it. Why? Because probably they're going to be safe somewhere. We're going to discuss that in the next video. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.